My name's John MacMahon. I'm co-founder of CytoKind. I'm really pleased to be here, and congratulations to the LSI team. Scott, this has been a great conference. We're really pleased and proud to be here. We are a combination of device with a Ozempic-sized pharma upside, and we'll walk you through. What we're doing is we're taking an existing device in dermatology, and we're translating it over to neurology. And it's a device today, but pharma upside tomorrow. The application of what we're looking at is really relying on 40 years of dermatology. And in dermatology, they use narrowband UVB lights, shine them on your skin where you have huge reservoirs of white blood cells, and they're motivated into your lymphatic system, and they stabilize your immunity. Where this is done most often is in the field of psoriasis, which is underappreciated as an autoimmune disease. It has a lot of similarities to broader autoimmunity, and that's why we're doing this translational work. I've been really pleased to have another strong team come around. This is our 5th startup that we've done. We have drug and device expertise, as well as colleagues with multiple IPOs and over $2 billion in exits. The phototherapy, which is the translational product of using ultraviolet light clinically for a patient, and its field is called photoimmunology, which may be new terms to folks in the room. We have the global leaders on it. So we've done the largest aggregation of experts in the field. In particular, we have the former head of inflammatory risk at NIH and Professor Pruhart, who ran the largest trial of phototherapy in MS. She's based in Australia, and we'll talk about her data and how we've leveraged it. Now, the reason we're going into MS, but we're thinking broadly about autoimmunity, is MS is the most sensitive disease to light. Around the equator, there is not multiple sclerosis. If you live in the northern half of the US, you have almost a double possibility of getting MS. You'll get it earlier, your brain volumes will get smaller faster, and you'll have more disease severity than if you lived in the south. So the first thing you want to do if you get MS is move south, if you can. The domain expertise in that field really getting translated is sort of an Occam's razor idea. Like, if that's the issue, why don't you just provide patients with phototherapy? And that's what we're doing. So this has been done academically, but it's not really got a commercial champion from dermatology into neurology before. And what we're doing in parallel is we're applying state-of-the-art multi-omics. And the reason is we don't know exactly what the body is producing that's stabilizing the immune system. Think of it as sort of ambrosia for your immune system. This works in graft versus host, psoriasis, vitiligo, COVID. But they don't know exactly what's getting made. So we're going to do that in parallel with serial omics. Now, I mentioned Professor Pruhart. So she did the largest randomized trial for MS patients, and they found clinical, immunological, and quality of life improvements. And the quality of life and the immunological are all correlated, and we're going to walk through why that's true. And then we've applied the state-of-the-art omics to this. So there's a previous study, so she sent us biobank samples to try and let someone move the academic research forward. Now, Octave Biosciences is our collaborator. They're based in Menlo Park. They have a validated proteomic profile specific to MS. So what's going on in MS is you have an overreactive immune system. Same thing in COVID, right? You have a lot of inflammation, and it is both biologically happening and clinically presenting. Now, it'll present as lesions in the brain in MS, but also presents in fatigue because your body is exhausted and you end up being exhausted yourself. So this is the first validated test that not only does an overall score of 1 to 10 on disease activity, but it has 4 biological pathways that shows the underlying biology that's making that patient that clinical presentation. So we collaborated with them to look specifically at what we could find out about how this previous trial on phototherapy performed. Simple hypothesis, the control group is going to continue to get worse. And how good is phototherapy? Are we just going to flatten it? Because there is no cure for MS. Right? This is presently a lifetime chronic condition. Or can we actually invert it? That was really a fundamental opportunity for us to discover from someone else's trial data how powerful this is. And we hit a clear home run. Randomized, even distributions of inflammation in both groups. At 90 days, total divergence. The control patients getting worse, the treated patients getting better on their overall disease activity. And then when you dive down deeper into the biology, the individual biological pathways, neuroinflammation, neuroaxonal integrity, so all these things about your nervous system, each one of those subcategories also diverged. And in a 20-patient cohort, we had statistical significance on a number of these fronts. This is super exciting stuff. So in our collaboration with them and their new test, we showed at 90 days divergence. We also showed at 66 months, where they did fatigue test, that these patients' fatigue was significantly reduced as well. At 12 months, half of the patients in the treatment group were able to avoid going on to DMTs, which are disease-modifying therapies. They're $100,000 a piece in the US, and they are not without their own issues, and then that's a lifetime subscription to those diseases. So super exciting stuff. And that allowed us to power a phase 2 trial. So as a startup, we have phase 1 data donated to us. We're now with a phase 2. We have our omics partners to do metabolic proteomic profiles, so we're also using general metabolics. Now, metabolics are in the news these days because Ozempic is a metabolic. This is an endogenously produced metabolite in your system that you're given that's changing healthcare. It's really, it's a great business. What it's doing for healthcare is really fantastic, but it's an upstream solution. So when we look at that, while we're doing these multi-omics approaches, we're looking to be upstream as well. Now, from efficiency to go to market, we have partnered with the largest light producer in the world. They're based in Bryan, Ohio, and they will white label their existing line of products into any new indication we have. So the fundraising that we're looking for isn't on the manufacturing side. It's to go get data and get approval and get to revenue. The market for the MS on the device side is 1 million US patients. 80% of them have fatigue. Fatigue is really what we're going to go after as a biomarker because it's unaddressed by any of the drugs that's out there. And there are a lot of drugs out there trying to help these patients, but they can't slow down the fatigue. And with a blended ASP of around $4,000, it's over a $3 billion TAM. Additionally, so that's a device side. That's a device revenue pathway from a company that's just, it's a perfect COVID model, right? We didn't have to go build a factory. We found all the partners. Now, when we look at the audacious upside, which we talk about, is finding this endogenous metabolite that's out there. So now we're going to switch to that and how we do that. So the way we look for something that's systemic and across all autoimmunity and non-MS is we have data sets of our own from COVID, donated in MS, and donated from hypertension from a study in the UK. And in that Venn is the systemic response of phototherapy to inflammatory conditions. And then we're running the proteomics, metabolics, and serology. And once again, in the middle of that Venn is a commonality of what has stabilized the inflammation across these diseases. And BARDA funded us to actually go do that because our original data was just exceptional in COVID. Thank you. The opportunity there when we look at this target spot, who do we have on the team that can go find it, is Professor Hector DeLuca, the godfather of vitamin D. So if you want to look for what sunlight does to your skin, you look at the vitamin D researchers. He's done 8 metabolites over his career. They've done $20 billion in revenue. So if you have a failed kidney and you're on hemodialysis, you're taking at least one of the analogs that this gentleman has discovered in his career. So we have a license or an option agreement with Wharf, his university, for his IP that he finds in this space. And he's 94 and in the lab every day, so she's doing something right. So we're looking for that with him. We don't want to invent finding this. We have machine learning to do that, but he's a proven resource. The market for solutions for MS, 65 billion worldwide, and none of them address fatigue. So we are complementary to the MS drug markets. And so we expect this round also to be getting us pharma introductions and partnerships. So what are we doing with the capital that we're looking to raise? Well, we've got our endogenous targets, some of which we've already identified from our phase 1 Venn diagrams. We're going to validate them in a phase 2 trial. That phase 2 trial is pan-MS, so it has the largest inclusion criteria, so it's a real-world sample. And within 18 months, we're going to have a new indication and revenue off that. Additionally, the pediatric MS patient population and their advocacy groups met with us, and they want to see this brought to pediatric patients as soon as possible. So we have a pending pediatric orphan device, people know orphan drug, but an orphan device decision, which we'll know within 6 months. It would give us revenue by the end of this year in MS. We're raising $15 million to get this done. It's a 24-month runway. We'll get 2 indications, 2 revenue models, and we're going to internalize our omics research. It's presently in academic centers around the world, and we're going to bring that expertise in-house because the upside is so big. So in conclusion, when we think about what was exciting about this is it meets 3 of the fundamental things you can do for a healthy, long life. And that is get some good sleep if you reduce the fatigue. Get stress out of your life. We can't help you with that one. And third, go get some sun. So 2 out of 3 is not bad. So thank you all, and congratulations to LSI for another great conference.